Don't miss this insightful discussion that will challenge your beliefs and broaden your perspective on the divine sovereignty and human responsibility dichotomy. The story of Pharaoh in the book of Exodus presents a fascinating study of God's sovereignty and human responsibility. As we explore the hardening of Pharaoh's heart, we must ask, who was responsible for this hardening? Was it Pharaoh himself, God, or a combination of both? The answer lies in a nuanced understanding of Scripture, which portrays both divine and human actions at play. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Throughout the Exodus narrative, numerous passages indicate that God actively hardened Pharaoh's heart. In Exodus 4:21, God tells Moses that he will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will not let the Israelites go. This motif recurs in several other passages, emphasizing God's sovereign role in hardening Pharaoh's heart. It becomes clear that God was not a passive observer, but an active participant in this process. The repetition of God's action highlights a critical aspect of his sovereignty. God hardened Pharaoh's heart to fulfill a specific purpose, to display his power, and ensure that his name would be proclaimed throughout the earth. By hardening Pharaoh's heart, God orchestrated a series of events that would lead to the deliverance of Israel and the demonstration of his supremacy over the gods of Egypt. The Israelites are used by God to bring the knowledge of God to the Egyptians. The Jews were slaves in Egypt for over 400 years. Here come Moses and Aaron telling Pharaoh that the God of Israel wants him to let them go free. Pharaoh answered them just like how you and I would have answered them. "Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." This initial resistance set the stage for the subsequent hardening of his heart. While the scriptures affirm God's role in hardening Pharaoh's heart, they also acknowledge Pharaoh's own responsibility. From the outset, Pharaoh exhibited a hardened heart by rejecting God's command through Moses. Explicit references to Pharaoh hardening his own heart appear in Exodus 8:15-32 and 9:34. Additionally, several passages describe Pharaoh's heart as unyielding or stubborn, indicating his active role in resisting God's will. These verses suggest that Pharaoh was not merely a puppet, but an agent who chose to oppose Moses' God. The interplay between divine sovereignty and human responsibility raises questions about the nature of God's control and human freedom. In Exodus 9:15-16, God explains that he could have destroyed Pharaoh and Egypt outright, but instead he raised Pharaoh up to demonstrate his power. This decision highlights a deliberate choice by God to use Pharaoh as an instrument to fulfill his divine purposes. God's sovereignty does not negate human responsibility, instead it works through it. Pharaoh was chosen because of his inherent disposition to resist God, allowing God to use his defiance to showcase his might. Interestingly, Pharaoh himself recognized his culpability during the plagues. In Exodus 9:27 and 10:16, after the plagues of hail and locusts, Pharaoh admits, "This time I have sinned. The Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong." His admissions reveal an awareness of his guilt and a recognition that his actions were against God's command. Despite these acknowledgments, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened. His confessions indicate that he knew he could have acted differently, but his stubbornness prevented him from relenting. Ultimately, the hardening of Pharaoh's heart was a collaborative process between divine sovereignty and human agency. God chose Pharaoh for his role, knowing his predisposition to resist, and further hardened his heart to achieve his purposes. Pharaoh, on the other hand, actively chose to oppose God, bearing responsibility for his defiance. The story of Pharaoh challenges us to understand the profound interplay between God's control and our choices. While God's sovereignty is absolute, it does not diminish our responsibility. Instead, it invites us to recognize that our actions are part of a larger divine plan. This understanding encourages us to align our hearts with God's will, knowing that he works through and beyond our choices to fulfill his purposes. In conclusion, the hardening of Pharaoh's heart is a testament to the intricate dance between God's sovereignty and human responsibility. It reminds us that while God is ultimately in control, we are accountable for our actions. As we navigate our own journeys, may we seek to soften our hearts to God's leading, participating willingly in his grand design. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.